When Teni found the farewell note, it was too late. Reading the crumpled note, her trembling fingers nearly tore it apart. The words blurred as tears clouded her vision. By the time you read this, I will be gone. Now you have enough to care for the children. I may have failed you in life. Forgive me. I hope this makes up for it. Goodbye. Bayo. Teni let out a piercing scream that filled the walls of their dilapidated one-bedroom apartment in Lagos. Kemi was dazed, her face pale. Toby, lying feverishly on the thin mattress in the bedroom, stirred weakly. Bayo's lifeless body lay in the corner of the sitting room, an empty bottle of cheap gin by his side. In his prime, Bayo was a king in his domain, the epitome of success. His wealth afforded comfort, his family thrived under his care, and his name commanded respect. But that was years ago. Now, the once prosperous man sat in the corner of their crumbling one-bedroom apartment in Lagos, clutching a bottle of cheap gin, drowning in the bitter taste of regret and failure. Bayo's downfall began when he made a wrong investment. A close friend had lured him into a high-risk oil deal. Bayo, this doesn't feel right. Why risk everything? We have enough. Think of the kids, Teni had pleaded with him when she learnt of his business intention. But Bayo waved her off with the arrogance of a man blinded by ambition. You worry too much. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We will triple what we have. Trust me, Teni. He went ahead to acquire multiple loans from various banks and sank all his life savings into the investment. Poured his life savings. The deal was a spectacular failure. The oil blocks never existed. The so-called friend vanished, and so did their savings. In a matter of months, the family lost everything, the mansion, the cars, even their dignity. Forced to relocate to a rundown apartment in a shanty part of town, the family's life turned into a daily struggle. Bayo, once a confident and proud man, now spent his days in silence, staring at the peeling walls and depending on scraps from very few friends who were already tired of relating with him. Teni's resentment grew sharper with each passing day. Do you even realize what you have done to us? She spat one evening as Bayo sat hunched over, his head in his hands. You ruined us. Our children are suffering because of you. I know. I know, Bayo mumbled. No, you don't know, Teni cut in. Look at Kemi, she used to be in one of the best schools. Now she's out of school. And Toby, we can't even afford to take him to a decent hospital since he fell sick. You have ruined us, Bayo. I warned you, didn't I? Now look at where we are. Teni was unforgiving. Bayo had no response. What could he say? She was right. He had failed them. Their teenage daughter, Kemi, barely spoke to him anymore. She was filled with contempt for him. And their youngest, 8-year-old Toby, simply watched in silence, his once bright personality replaced by quiet stares. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. But the situation of the family got worse. What started as a mild fever for Toby turned into something far worse. The boy grew weaker by the day, his breathing labored. We need to take him to the hospital. Teni shouted one evening as Toby's small frame convulsed in her arms. With what money? Bayo snapped, his frustration spilling over. Find it, she screamed back, tears streaming down her face. Borrow, beg, steal, I don't care. Just do something. Bayo stared at his son, his heart breaking. He couldn't sit idle any longer. He grabbed his worn-out slippers and staggered out of the house, ignoring Teni's shouts behind him. Driven by desperation and a shred of hope, Bayo stumbled out of the house, determined to find a way to save his son. He walked the streets of Lagos like a man possessed, stopping at old acquaintances and even begging at one point, but his past glory meant nothing now. He stopped by former business associates, swallowing his pride to ask for help. Bayo, things are tough for everyone now, one man said, avoiding his eyes. I'm sorry, but I can't help, said another. Hours passed, and hope dwindled. Exhausted and defeated, he wandered onto a busy road, his thoughts clouded, just as a sleek black SUV came speeding down the street. The impact was brutal. Bayo hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his body, his battered body refusing to move. The driver of the SUV was a young man whose wealth and influence could bury Bayo in a courtroom. The young millionaire dashed out of his car and tried to help Bayo up on his feet. Please sir, name your price, please. No police. Please. Anything, just name it. Bayo was a little disoriented, but he managed to stand, clenching his teeth. He thought of Toby lying weak in that apartment. He thought of Teni's screams, Kemi's disdainful glares, the mounting hospital bills and lack of food to eat. Pride had no place here. You almost killed me. Bayo managed to respond. Please sir, name your price, the young man repeated. 10 million, Bayo chuckled. He knew that such an amount was impossible to get, but it was the first figure that came to his mind. 10 million, no mess, no police, he added, doubting his own request. Done, the young man said without a second thought. He hurried into his vehicle, scrambled for a few seconds, then returned with the cash. He pushed the bag into Bayo's hands and rushed back to his car, zooming off. When Bayo returned home, limping, and explained briefly how he was knocked down by a vehicle, Teni and Kemi exploded. You let him go just like that? Teni screamed. How could you? Do you have any idea what we could have gotten if we had taken this to court? Kemi screamed, her anger matching her mother's. Bayo did not try to defend himself. He had no strength left in him. He simply handed Teni the bag and retreated to the corner of the room where his gym butter waited. They didn't notice his trembling hands or the tears streaming silently down his face. Teni stormed into the bedroom, Kemi stomping after her, leaving Bayo in his usual corner of the sitting room. He painfully grabbed the pen and paper, scribbled down some words, and collapsed into a rest. Moments later, Teni and Kemi rushed out with excitement, Teni holding the bag of 10 million in cash. Darling, this is much, she exclaimed excitedly. Bayo said nothing. No movement. Daddy is not waking up, Kemi panicked. Teni rushed over, shaking him frantically. But Bayo's body was cold. The note fell from his hand as she tried to move him. Her eyes widened as she read it. By the time you read this, I will be gone. I have been sick for months. The doctor said it's chronic, terminal. I did not tell you because I didn't want to add to your burdens. I took the money because I knew my time was running out. Now you have enough to care for the children. I may have failed you in life, forgive me. I hope this makes up for it. Goodbye. Bayo. The room fell silent. Teni's hands shook as she held the note, the enormity of his sacrifice sinking in. Kemi stared at her father's lifeless body, tears streaming down her face as guilt clawed at her. And Toby, too young to fully understand, whispered, Daddy, wake up. For all his flaws, Bayo had given them everything he had left, even his last breath. His redemption came not in life, but in the legacy he left behind. Teni collapsed on the floor, wailing uncontrollably. Kemi stood frozen, her tears falling silently. In death, Bayo had done what he couldn't in life. He had given them a chance. A final act of love from a man who had lost everything.